Ladies and gentlemen, the Red Brigade has rolled in Chaguanas. We are getting the job done. Just a few moments ago, the amendment bail bill was passed. 3/5 majority given to the bill. The commitment to the political party. I just saw Minister Rambarat on television and he's here already. Coming to do the opening, welcoming remarks, the Councillor for Enterprise North, Esmeralda, not once, not twice, but we're giving her a hat-trick in that electoral district. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the young, the dynamic Lisa Holder.
We're coming. PNM.
A pleasant good night, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, Minister Clarence Rambarat and government ministers, fellow candidates, PNM people, the media personnel, member of TTPS, providing safety and security here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chaguanas. Welcome to Chaguanas and the PNM's public local government election public meeting. Chaguanas has been in the hands of the UNC for 29 years, and that is too long. We need to vote them out. And we're going to do this in 2019. This year, the local government election campaign in Central has been seen as a slate of experienced youth personnel and in taking the Chaguanas Borough Corporation by storm. We are seeking your support. Chaguanas corporations need the People's National Movement, and we are getting the job done in Central. Improve infrastructure, regularization of land tenure, agriculture and entrepreneurship initiatives. PNM is getting it right. The People's National Movement is getting the job done, and we are going to take Central by storm. Under the leadership of Dr. Keith Rowley, we have weathered the economic storm, and we are now poised and ready to take the Chaguanas Borough Corporation. So in 2019, victory in the local government election, and in 2020, victory in the general election. So let's step up and support this great party, the People's National Movement. So welcome to Chaguanas, welcome to Central. We are getting the job done. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. And we shall prevail.
PNM.
Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen, for the young, dynamic, three-time councillor, Lisa Holder. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to launch our candidates for the 22 electoral districts. 14 in Cuba, Tabakit, Talparo, Cuba, say yeah. And 8 in the borough of Chaguanas. Your next mayor coming from the PNM in Chaguanas. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it was only a few months ago I stood a little down the road at Enterprise with Minister Rambarat and a few others that are gathered here, and we opened the second Balizé House in Central Trinidad. We sent a signal then that the PNM red and ready, rolling in Chaguanas, And on the 2nd of December, we will show them victory for the People's National Movement. Coming to speak to us now is a young lady I've grown very fond of. She is the councillor for the 2nd time around, and this is her hat-trick in Chaguanas for the Edinburgh-Londonville South area. Ladies and gentlemen, the woman with integrity, the woman with finesse, the woman with dignity, the woman who will be reclaiming that electoral district, Janelle Jo Ryan.
It is not as easy as they say. It would take a stronger opposition to beat the PNM party today. The doctor said, PNM, he here to stay. PNM, just stay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Ms. Gibbs, that's your councillor. Firstly, the Almighty God, Dr. the Honorable Prime Minister and political leader, Keith Christopher Rowley, who is on his way, Deputy political leaders, Party campaign manager, Mr. Rohan Sinanan, General Secretary, Senator Foster Cummings, other members of the party's leadership, party chairmen and coordinators, ministers, members of the lower and upper house, mayors, deputy mayors, chairpersons of the regional corporations, fellow councillors, aldermen, my fellow candidates and future councillors of the Chaguanas Borough Corporation, members of the media, members of the protective services, the sound system crew and the operation team, friends, supporters, well-wishers, specially invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, PNM family, good evening. This evening, like all other PNM meetings, we have prepared for you a powerful slate of speakers who are all geared up to educate you on the party's plan and keep us abreast of the latest news, not fake news, but real news. Today, I stand here a proud member of this great party, the People's National Movement. A party that has stood the test of times since 1956. A party that has survived through 33-3. A party that has overcome the 2010 mania. A party that has successful leadership planning. A party that empowers the youths of this nation. A party and the only party that has a Balize House in North, a Balize House in South, in Tobago, and right here now in Central. A party and the only party that saw fit to bring to the parliament local government reform. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why I must bring to you that we must change the status quo in the Chaguanas Borough Corporation. For far too long, the UNC has ruled the Chaguanas Borough Corporation like if it's a parlor and they can't see their way. What have we in Chaguanas to show for it? Nothing. Nothing. The mayor has now gone into hiding. He afraid of what is to come. But he could run, but he can't hide because the PNM come in. We come in to root out all the wasteful and waste of time UNC ruled corporation people. And like the no return of the Mayor Budan to the Chaguanas Borough Corporation, same is coming to the rest of the UNC clan. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I was given the opportunity to talk to you a little bit, right, about some issues, a few pertinent issues in the Chaguanas Borough Corporation, ladies and gentlemen. And after this, you will see why. The people who are undecided will see why. That the People's National Movement is the only party to rule Chaguanas Borough Corporation. I walk with my clipping here tonight and all my documents. Just give me a chance. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I have a clipping here from 2010. Right? This is when they had the internal elections, the UNC. Do you remember when Mr. Gerald Yetming ran for an executive position against Vasant Bharat? And Mr. Yetming won by 78 votes. They asked for a recount and how Mr. Bharat won now by 266 votes. And Mr. Yetming lost by 99 votes. Tell me how that could happen, please. How? How can we trust the UNC government to run the Chaguanas Borough when they can't run their own affairs? This was the statement. Disabled children deserve better care, says the councillor Gopal Budan in 2008. 2008. 5 years, 3 months in 5 years and 3 months in government, and 6 years as a mayor. Where is the home and the money? Where is the money? In 2008, they were given $275,000 to start this project. Where is the money? In 2008, for this project, not one hole was dug to start this project. Watch them. They're pretending they're digging sod here. Up to now, no home for the children. But he's saying the disabled children deserved a home. But I want to tell him the PNM will give these children a home. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, I would like you to consider there's a building they call the Heritage Building in front of the Chaguanas Borough Corporation. All ever see that? All ever see that building? That little building so far has cost $800,000. And it's not completed, $800,000. Well, the councillor for Enterprise South called for an investigation into that matter, and he's asking for a forensic audit in that building. Because in 2016 to 2017, allocations were given $300,000, right? The CBC received confirmations of funds. So you could go ahead and invite your tenders, but not open tenders until you actually receive the funds. The CBC did not receive the allocations for that year. So they could not have tendered for that project, right? But in 2017, 2018, there was allocation of 300,000. So you know what the CBC decided to do? They decided that they would take this 300,000 that is allocated now in 2017-2018 and give it to the lowest bidder that they had in 2016-2017. Right? How could they do that? You have to retender because this is new allocation for the year 2017-2018. It clearly states we even questioned and a memo was sent from head office. But yet they went ahead and gave the contract. The mayor again. Ladies and gentlemen, our market repairs to roof and ceiling, $1.8 million. When we checked, Councillor Hira, somewhere here, you have the pictures of all the rusted galvanized that was removed. Look at what was removed to what they spent. $1.8 million to repair leaks in the roof of the Chaguanas market. Well, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, according to a certain contractor, right? I have the letters here. Addressed to the Chaguanas Borough Corporation, the CEO, dated the 14th of September 2019. This particular contractor stated, a certain councillor, not the PNM councillors, not the PNM people, the PNM are people of integrity. This contractor wrote to the CEO on a project. The project was Jaffa Ali Outfall Box Train, right? The man who tendered to this contract, I wouldn't call his name, but the letter is here. You all will see it later who want to see it after. Let me go down to the meat. Upon reaching the site, the said councillor asked if I could employ one of his supporters. I asked him if he could wait a while as I was taking one of your employees who goes by the name, I wouldn't call the name, one of the supervisors to the site to look at the site. After the supervisor left, this said councillor became abusive to me, accosting me to have him to wait in the hot sun. After a heated exchange of words, this councillor threatened me to shut down the project or he would send people to tax me. He also said that he would not be signing any document for me to get paid. I wish to inform you that I have been a contractor with the Ministry of Local Government for more than 20 years, having been awarded contracts in other corporations, and this is the first time a councillor has ever threatened me to stop the project or send people to tax me for a job. For a job, ladies and gentlemen. These are the type of candidates, councillors the UNC put up. Now tell me, the PNM is needed there. Men and women of integrity, ladies and gentlemen. And that is just one. Look, a next letter came from another contractor. However, but what good for, what did it say? What good for Gopal and good for Sipal? Sipal gets sacked and she keep Gopal. All right, because Gopal probably have a little bit more funding than Sipal. But anyway, I will see the documents after. And these letters, mind you, were copied to the was sent to the CEO, both of them. They were sent to also their leadership. It was sent to the Ministry of Local Government. So I wonder if the ministry have a copy of this letter, so you all will see that this is not fake news, but as I said before, real news, people, real news. Tell me, how could you put your trust in people like this? Tell me how. Anyway, I wanted to touch on a little bit of this. Allow me, 2016. Certain members of the Couva Talparo Regional Corporation, and I want to say at the head, were employed at the Chaguanas Borough Corporation, collecting monies at the Chaguanas Borough Corporation, but did not show up for work for days. Ladies and gentlemen, are these the people that we want running our corporation? They're taking all the money that is supposed to be helping us with infrastructure and paying themselves. Mind you, subcommittees and more subcommittees, rushing down 4 meetings in about, I don't want to lie, 20 minutes, 4 meetings, just to get a stipend, a chairmanship fee. Come on, and what have they to show for it today in Chaguanas? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, what more can I say? I want to say though, we, the People's National Movement, we will be welcoming our PNM candidates and future councillors to the borough of Chaguanas come December 2nd. And we will be getting it done in Chaguanas with Sherwin Lucas, the next councillor for Charlieville. Nadira Mohammed, the next councillor for Kunupie. Kevin Phillip, the next councillor for Monroe Road, Caroni Savannah. Leslie Ann Dillon, the next councillor for Montrose. Shodan Mahabir, the next councillor for Felicity Endeavour. The lovely Lisa Holder, the next councillor for Enterprise North Esmeralda. The powerful, the 20 how much years veteran. Where him? I'm not seeing him. Ronald Hira, the next councillor for Enterprise South, Longdonville North. Who missing? Who's missing? And me, ladies and gentlemen, Janelle Jo Ryan, your next councillor for Edinburgh, Longdonville South. These 8 standard bearers, will school the UNC on how to function and operate as an effective team to bring about positive representation to all the burgesses of the borough of Chaguanas, not a few, but all the burgesses of Chaguanas Borough Corporation. And then, and only then, ladies and gentlemen, we can truly start the walk to city status. Only then, with the People's National Movement, ladies and gentlemen, getting it done the People's National Movement style way. And together, ladies and gentlemen, once the PNM has control of the Chaguanas Borough Corporation, then and only then the residents, the burgesses, each and every member of Chaguanas can say, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and together we shall prevail. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
It would take a stronger opposition to be the PNM party today. The doctor said, he here to stay. Just take it cool. He come to
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together again for your councillor, Woman Power! Woman Power! Well, yes, it's real trouble down in Chaguanas. Woman power, ladies and gentlemen. And DJ, play some music.
PNM. Yeah, this one is for the nation, for the children. Yeah, we're getting it done in the fires of hope and prayer. Together as one, there is no load we cannot bear. And I see the light at the end.
Wave your hands, ladies and gentlemen. Wave your balloons.
I see the bright blue skies. Tomorrow has come and the change has begun. Yes, we're moving. Yes, we're moving. Here we come. Hey, getting it done. Well, let me tell you something. Forward is how we moving, so never stop believing. We getting it done. A new country we building. This country first we choosing, and every day we proving. We getting it done. They only mama guying. We don't know there was thieving. They cannot tell we nothing. Red is how we rolling. It's PNM we voting. We doing it right. We doing it right. We getting it done. One good for country, good for party. Team Rowley, we're building legacy. So when you're voting, know that you're building a strong foundation for this great nation. This is a nation of many races, different faces in many spaces. So when you're voting, know that you're building a strong foundation for this great nation. Tomorrow has come and the change has begun. Yes, we're moving. Yes, we're moving. Here we come. Hey, getting it done. So let me tell you one thing. It's big man thing we doing. The right thing that we choosing. We getting it done. Society we shaking. Big up us away the welling. It's up and up we going. We getting it done. Respecting who we serving. Lies is what they're spreading. Every time we beat them, it's country that we choosing. Bread is how we rolling. It's PNM we voting. We doing it right. We getting it done. We getting it done in the fires of hope and prayer. Together as one, there is no load we cannot bear. And I see the light at the end of the rainbow.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome on stage our Deputy Political Leader, the Honorable Rohan Sinanan. We getting the job done in Cuba, Tabaki, Talparo. And to get that job done are the following candidates. They will make their way to the front. You will cheer them on because they are our flag bearers, standard bearers, and the victors come December 2nd. For Balmain, Calcutta, number 2, Karan Jarrell Williams.
This one is for the nation, for the children. Yeah.
For Calibe, Calcutta, Macbean, Shazad Khan.
In the fires of hope and prayer, together as one.
For California, Point Lisas, the young Dinner Totten.
I see the light at the end of the rainbow.
Clacton Point of Pierre, Aaron Mohammed.
Tomorrow has come and the change.
Kaparo Mamural, Rakil Disun.
Yes, we're moving. Here we come. Hey, getting it done. Well, let me tell you something.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been informed that our Honorable Prime Minister and political leader is with us at the moment. Would he stand?
They only mama dying. We don't know there was thieving. They cannot tell me nothing. Let this how we rolling. It's PNM we voting. We doing it right. We doing it right. We getting it done. Good for country. Good for party. Team Rowley, we building legacy. So when you're voting, know that you're building a strong foundation for this great nation. This is a nation of many races, different faces in many spaces. So when you're voting, know that you're building a strong foundation for
for our political leader, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the meeting now gets hotter in Chaguanas. For the electoral district of Cartel Tortuga, Sean Williams.
Respecting who we serving, lies is what they're spreading. Every time we
St. Mary's Garsonfield, Carrie Edwards.
we rolling, speaking and we voting, we doing it right, we getting it done.
Perseverance Waterloo, Nanda Paula.
As of hope and prayer, together
Las Lomas San Rafael, Dinner Rupnarine.
and I
Preparo San Pedro Tabakit, Quincy Stewart.
the rainbow. 4:40 p.m. we see the bright
Freeport, Chickland, Sofia, Bartholomew, London.
tomorrow has come.
Londonville, Talfaro, Georgia, Ali Bay.
Yes, we're moving. Yes, we're moving. Here we
Gasparilla, Bonaventure, Petra, Charles.
done. Hey, hey, 40 p.m.
Christian Castle, Esperanza, Lindsay, Burnett, Bucket.
40 p.m.
Ladies and gentlemen, your standard bearers for Cuba, Tabaki, Talfaro.
We getting it done. Hey, hey, 40 p.m. Hey, hey, we getting it done. Hey, hey, 40 p.m. Hey, hey, we getting it done. Hey, hey, where your body's at? Hey, hey, we getting it done. PNM, PNM. Yeah, this one is for the nation, for the children. Yeah. We're getting it done in the fires of hope and prayer.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the podium is the man who have reduced all the flooding problems in Trinidad and is responsible for the highway to Point Fortin, Valencia, the interchange in Currep, the campaign manager for this local election, the deputy political leader of the People's National Movement, ladies and gentlemen, Senator the Honorable Rohan Sinanan, Minister of Works and Transport.
I thought somebody told me this hall could only take 2,000 people. I am sure we have over 5,000 people in this hall. Political leader and Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. What is that? Are we boy? Cabinet colleagues, Senator Clarence Rambarat, and all my cabinet colleagues, members of the People's National Movement, executive, councillors from the Chaguanas borough corporations, and the future councillors for the Cuba, Talparo regional corporations, members of the media, friends, and I must say, the lifeblood of politics in Trinidad and Tobago, the members of the People's National Movement. Are we getting it done? And we are not only getting it done, we are getting a lot more with a lot less. But before I speak as the Minister of Works and Transport tonight, just allow me to pay my respects to a very dear friend of mine and somebody who I consider somebody who I felt would have done his part for the Hindu community and for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We may not all agree with his style, we may not all agree with the things he said and how he said it, but tonight I want to pay my respects to Mr. Sat Maharaj because I thought he would have done a significant part for education and culture. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2015, when we told you, let's do this, we beg this population to come do this with the People's National Movement. What we were telling you then is that every ministry in Trinidad and Tobago, with your support, will get the job done. And we will also get the job done in a way that will ensure that the interests of every citizen in Trinidad and Tobago would be protected. Ladies and gentlemen, having said that, we came back to you here in 2019 to report to you basically on our progress. We are not here to tell you why you should vote for the PNM because the UNC were very corrupt. We are not only here to tell you that they were corrupt and the way they managed the country. We are here to report to you on how we managed the country in the last 4 years and what we were able to achieve. And from the Ministry of Works and Transport, I can tell you what we did in your interests, acting on your behalf, is we transformed the way the ministry did business before. We promised you to act on your interests, and what we did is that the first way we approach our infrastructure projects, guided by the political leader and Prime Minister, is that we are supposed to work firstly in the interests of our local contractors. What we did, we ensured that all our projects were being driven by a development program for Trinidad and Tobago. We ensured that we had the widest possible participation from our local contractors. And in doing that, what we did, we tailored our products and the way we packaged them so that the local contractors could have participated. And we ensured that we had a free and fair and transparent tendering process. Let me give you some examples of that. The San Fernando to Point Fortin Highway. When we came in, we met a contractor who was bankrupt. The previous government awarded a contract to one single contractor. That contract was terminated, having spent over $5 billion. The project was heading for a completion of close to $10 billion. Now remember, this project was tendered out in 2009, 2010, and the then government refused to award the contract because we found that the price was significantly higher than the engineer's estimate. They went ahead and awarded the contract. The contractor, even at that exorbitant price, said he couldn't finish. They altered the contract for him, took out a significant portion of it without reducing the price. Even that couldn't help the contractor. We eventually had to terminate the contract because the contractor went bankrupt. Under the guidance of the Prime Minister and the team that we were going to work in the interest of the citizens of this country, we decided to break that contract up, to finish that. This is after we went to court and got back $1 billion for you, the taxpayers. Understand how we got back that billion. One day before the general election, one day, the then government and the Ministry of Works and DITCO took out a clause from a contract that said if the contractor goes bankrupt, we can terminate the contract. They took out that clause. So even if the contractor goes bankrupt, we can't terminate. Minister Young and his team went to court and they were able to get back $1 billion from that contract. That $1 billion allowed us to restart the highway to San Fernando. But how we restart the highway? We broke it up into 12 packages. And we allowed the local contractors and the foreign contractors to tender for the project. 12 packages were won by 5 local contractors. And that is how we say we are working in your best interest. But what is more important, we were able to bring that highway back in line to the prices that the PNM government had estimated to be. When we came in, that highway was on average $125 million per kilometer. We were able now to bring it back to close to $85 million with our local contractors. Now, that is what we talk about when we said that we're going to have transparent tendering process. We allow the local contractors to tender for this project, compete with each other, and we were able to save you at least $2 billion on that one project because there was no end figure on the OAS for that contract. Nobody knew what the price would have ended up at. We can tell you now by next year, by 2020, December, San Fernando to Point 14 will be completed. Just recently, we opened a segment of the creek. I see the UNC are taking some umbrage that we partially opened the creek. Well, what they're not telling the population, that same segment failed under them 3 times, where it collapsed under them. We were able to complete it and finish it, and right now you can drive on the creek without being flooded out in your car. Another project that we can boast about, the way we handle it under the guidance of the Prime Minister, is the Kumoto to Manzalan to Sani Grande Highway. I remember coming in as the Minister of Works, and there was a contract on the desk of the Minister of Works to take the cabinet for $1.9 billion. Using the same system that they use on the San Fernando Highway, where they were about to award this contract to one single contractor, no land acquisition in place, no final figure, but to award the entire highway, $1.9 billion, to one single contractor. We said no. We broke it up into 3 sections. But what is significant about that? The person that they were supposed to award for $1.9 billion, he also tendered on the 5-kilometer phase. They came in at $600 million. A local contractor was able to win it for $400 million, 50% less. Now you can imagine if we had done the entire highway at that price, if just on one phase we save 50%, $200 million on a $400 million contract. Let us look at the Curep interchange. The Curep interchange is now being studied by some of the foreign financiers, meaning the IDB, CAF, as to how this government was able to approach a project like that. And right now, as we speak, they are working on it, and it is on budget, and it will come in by the end of January next year. The end of February, we have an interchange. But what is significant about that? The previous government was about to award that for $540 million around there. They went to court, and that stymied the process because 2 contractors were fighting as to which minister promised them the contract. When we came in, we canceled the process and we went back out for a tender. And the same project, you just add 2 additional roads, and you would think if you add 2 additional roads, then the price is supposed to go up. The project came in at $221 million, a saving of over $300 million. And that is how when we tell you that we are doing more with less, that is what we mean by that. It's the way we do business. It's the way we use competitive tendering. We tailor the packages for you, the local contractors, and you benefit from that. This is the first time in Trinidad and Tobago we have 4 major highways going on at the same time. 4. We have the San Fernando to Point 14. We have the Valencia to Toco. We have the Wallafield to Sani Grande. And we have the entire upgrade of the Maruga Road. 4 projects. And people may wonder, well, how you could have all these road projects going on? Where's the money coming from? The bottom line is 1, competitive tendering, value for money, and nobody thieving. We have several projects going on in Trinidad at the same time. We have the interchange. Very soon, we'll be going to cabinet with the Diego Martin interchange. And I must say, the Diego Martin interchange is being built from the money we save on the QREP interchange. We are actually building 2 interchange with the price that they were going to build 1 for. When I look at the amount of work that we are getting now, it's sad to see what this PNM government would have done with the budget that the UNC had. It is a shame to see what they did with that amount of money. And when we tell people, you're saving $300 million on a $500 million project, they can't believe it. But think about it. The Komoto Highway is being built at $80 million a kilometer. The South Highway, same terrain, same greenfield, was being built for almost $125 million. $45 million difference on a 47-kilometer highway. 1 kilometer, 25 million. 1 kilometer, 45 million doesn't sound like much. Multiplied by 47. And think about what you could do with $2 billion on one project. And that is what we said when we say, let's do this. And we will do more with less. That is how this country is running. A reduced budget, but no public servants sent home. No IMF. The reason for that is that we are managing your money the way it should have been managed in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, let me speak about Chaguanas a little bit. We promised in our manifesto ring road around Chaguanas, the Chaguanas Traffic Alleviation Project. I am happy to report that in July this year, we opened the first phase of that. And only today, I got a call from the business community in Chaguanas, where they want an urgent meeting about the future of to solve the traffic problem in Chaguanas. Well, we promise you that we will solve the problem, but it has to be done on a phase basis. So in 2020, we have phase 2, which is to expand on and I think on the screens you might be able to see if they have the Chaguanas traffic alleviation projects. That is our plan for Chaguanas. It's putting in 2 additional roundabouts in 2020, 2021, and by 2023, we will have a complete ring road around Chaguanas, and that is your traffic alleviation for Chaguanas. So this government is getting it done, not only on the east-west corridor, not only in Diego Martin, but in central, in south. Very soon, we have the San Fernando waterfront project. And I'm hoping that we can turn that sod by mid to the end of December, if not by early January. The San Fernando waterfront project will be started under the Ministry of Works and Transport doing the infrastructure work. Designs have been completed. We expect the tender documents to be out within a week or so. So this government has work happening in Point Fortin. If you go to Point Fortin now, you will see a contractor starting the highway from Point Fortin coming back to San Fernando. We have 5 active contractors in San Fernando, in Point Fortin, in Komoto. If you look at the Komoto project, people couldn't visualize that they will have a highway by next year going into Sani Grande. That is happening as we speak. You're going to Toko, you go to the Valencia Road, you will see 8 contractors. Because the way we tendered that project out, no contractor could get more than 1 project. Because we had to share the work around. We have 8 contractors working on the Valencia to Toko Road. And that is what we meant when we said, we will seek your interest and let's do this together. And that is why I can boast today that we are getting it done. Ladies and gentlemen, there's one other area that I want to touch on. The licensing office. When we said some time ago that we're going to clean up license office, a lot of people thought we were joking. I don't know if the Prime Minister took me seriously when I said that we're going to fix license office. What we have been doing for unlicensed office for the last 3 years is using IT to clean up the license office and to bring it to the point where license office will not be a nightmare to go to. But in order to do that, there were a lot of people in license office that were pushing us back. There are a lot of people in license office who are saying we should not computerize license office. Well, we are about 100% completed on that. But more important, at the license office, in January, we'll be launching the U-turn system. And what is a U-turn system? It's a new system where we use technology, and most of the services that you go to license office to line up for will be a thing at the pass. U-turn service, demerit point system, red light camera enforcement. By January, that technology will be here in Trinidad and Tobago. The unit have been fully staffed at the Caroni office. All the enforcement officers have been trained. The handheld devices, just like what we see in the developed countries. When they stop you, they give you a ticket. No more writing and all these things where you have to wait half an hour to get a ticket. And there was a joke in Trinidad where a policeman had charged you on one street and he said that was too hard to spell, he carry on the next street and he give you the ticket. Those things are things that he pass. So by January, we will have these new tickets system. Ladies and gentlemen, license office will be transformed. This was supposed to be done in 2008, 2009. That is where the transformation started. But what had happened is that in 2013, a decision was taken and a bond was raised for $389 million to transform the license office, build 3 new offices, and I think it was 3 satellite offices. Unfortunately, the Minister of Transport then, who has a lot to say about P&M, Devan Maharaj, I could call his name because I have court close. Devan Maharaj took a decision that they're going to build 1 building in Caroni. Now remember, this $389 million was supposed to build 3 offices, a head office and satellite offices. Offices at the port, so when vehicles coming in, they start to trail them from there. License office Caroni was supposed to cost $45 million. $45 million. So this 389 was to transform the office. A decision was taken under Devan Maharaj to spend $280 million on 1 building, and the contractor was SIS, of course. All right? So we came in, they spent the money. What we had was a shell. And I remember as minister, they took me there. I said, but we have to open this. They said, well, this is all the money we have. I think we ended up with $39 million from the loan. And I told them, we will transform license office with that 39. But then they showed me, they said, no, minister, we go into cabinet because Mr. Maharaj bought a property in Arima, and we're going to build a new license office there. I said, but where the money coming from? They said, no, look, there's a note prepared here that he left to go back to cabinet for $140 million to build that building. And they said, well, look, and he bought the land already. How much he paid for the land? $27 million. But then the lawyers came to me and they said, Minister, you should investigate that. So I went and I did the investigation. Then I found a letter on the file where the same Ministry of Works condemned the building. So we decided to do a valuation on the building. The time the building was bought for $27 million, it was worth $17 million. And more than that, he did a design to build a new building on the site for $12 million. And then he was going to cabinet to get $140 million to build that building. Then he had to go back to get money to build 2 other buildings. That project would have cost over $1 billion. What we did, we took the $39 million. We completed Caroni. We bought the computer software and everything. We got Caroni up. I think we spent about $5 million to do that. We decided the piece of land that he bought in Arima, we don't need that. Why did he buy that? Because the Ministry of Works has 5 acres of land, a stone throw away. We gave that land to the Attorney General office. So the Attorney General is going to build a court there. Because the ministry didn't need it. But somebody, Devan, wanted to buy a piece of land, so he just bought it. From the money that remained, we are upgrading Port of Spain. We are upgrading San Fernando. We're building right now a license office in Sangre Grande. And we're building a brand new license office in Arima. We put in the system in the port. So something that would have cost you close to $1 billion if you had gone with their plan, we are getting it done for $39 million. That is how this government is getting it done, doing more with less. And at the end of the day, this country will reach where we all want it to reach. Another, and as if I can get 5 more minutes, because I know my time is limited. And as campaign manager, I am not allowed to speak at every meeting, because I have to be all over the country. But I want to correct one more piece of mischief that is in the public domain. Senator Saddam Hussein said in the parliament, his big bombshell was the PNM using URP. Remember that? And that made the papers for 2-3 days. They so don't have news that when somebody just puts some Cambridge Analytica something outside, they run with it. PNM don't use URP people. If the URP people decide that they feel their interest is better served under the PNM, they're welcome to support the PNM. We don't tell anybody who to vote for. We don't tell anybody who to vote for. But Trinidadians are very sensible people. And they know where their interest lies. They know who will take care of them in the future. In 2015, and this is another, something that you all as citizens must take note of. URP is the Unemployment Relief Program. $725 million was passed to that program in 2015. And you would think if URP gets $725 million, everybody in Trinidad employed, because it's for unemployed people. And if you divide that per salary based on the URP income, you could employ a couple million people well. Right? But what they did with URP, they used URP as a procurement agency. And when I came in, I saw about $200 million in bills. But these bills were for billion-dollar companies that were building roads for the ministry. And I question, if URP is an unemployment program, how come these companies getting these contracts there? Up to today, half the jobs we can't find. We can't find half the jobs up to today. So Saddam Hussein have a problem. Now this budget, my budget for URP, is $182 million. We were able to hire over 36,000 people. We got 150 projects done by the URP employees, no contractors. Not a single contract was awarded to a contractor. URP workers did it. 150 projects, and you can go in every constituency and see it. From that $182 million, 36,000 people employed. In their case, it's about 9,000 people employed, but they spent $725 million. And when Saddam Hussein want to get up and criticize URP employees and so, first they must understand what URP was to them, what URP is to us. URP to us is innocent people, unemployed people on a temporary work program. To them, URP was a way to give their friends and their big contractor friends contracts in URP, because the procurement system in URP was so weak, they was able to get away with murder inside of there. And that is why we have single contracts being awarded to 5 people. So one contract being awarded to 5 people. And that is why half the money that some of them claiming that URP owe them, we say go to court. Because we want to go to court and show the court what was going on in URP. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you tonight for the opportunity that you gave us in 2015 I want to tell you that your interest is being served, it's being served well. This government is getting it done. December 2nd, let us vote for the People's National Movement. Your choice on December 2nd is two things. Go back to the bacchanal, the corruption, and the mayhem where every morning is a new corruption and a new minister. Got one minister getting fired. Remember those days when every morning you open the papers, you see, you want to know who's swearing in today? I could tell you in the Ministry of Works and Transport, there were 9 ministers. And at any point in time, there were 4, sometimes 5. So you go into work, but you don't know who is your boss. You could go back to that, or you could go to the new society that the Prime Minister spoke about at the convention. I know where I am going. I am going for this new society because I have a daughter, I have nieces, I have nephews, and I expect to have grandchildren living in this country. I will do my part. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail.
Ready, 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 ready. We're ready, we're ready. Yeah, we're ready. Ready, 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 ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together again for the action man, the Minister of Works, getting the job done. The People's National Movement have considered that no geographical area is the preserve of any one political party. So a second Balize House was instituted in Chaguanas. And come 2nd December, a PNM borough for the Chaguanas Borough Corporation will be instituted. And to represent us in the borough of Chaguanas, our standard bearers, as they make their way and we show them their appreciation for the electoral district of Montrose, the lovely Leslie Ann Dillon. Edinburgh, Londonville South, your councillor, Janelle Joe Ryan. Enterprise North, Esmeralda, your next councillor, Lisa Holder. Enterprise South, Londonville North, your hero, Ronald Hira. Columbia, the lovely Nadira Abdullah Mohammed. Conroe Road, Caroni Savannah, Kevin Phillips.
Let me tell you one thing, it's big bad thing we doing.
Charlieville, Joel Lucas.
Society we shaking, what's our way the welding?
Felicity Endeavor, the experience, Shodan Mahamir.
Lies is what they're spreading. Every time we beat them.
Ladies and gentlemen, your standard bearers, the next borough of Chaguanas, PNM.
Right, we getting it done.
On December 2nd, vote PNM.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Councillors, may I say? Put your hands together for them. Our next speaker, many things can be said about him. I've known him for a very, very long time. But he is presently the coordinator of the elections for the Chaguanas Borough. He is also the candidate for the Chaguanas East constituency, your next member of parliament. And these days, ladies and gentlemen, you could see him in every nook and cranny, riding bicycle and all. Your next speaker, the energetic, the Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, Senator, the Honorable Clarence Rambarat.
Smart men and politicians can
much. Montrose, how you feeling tonight? We getting it done. And busting their tail while we at it. Our Prime Minister and political leader, Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley. My colleague in the Senate, Senator Rohan Sinanan, Deputy Political Leader, other Deputy Political Leaders, my colleagues, the lower house and the upper house, including our former chairman and leader of the Senate, current leader of the Senate, Senator Franklin Khan, Lady Vice Chairman Camille Robinson-Regis, the Chairman and Executive of the Chaguanas East Constituency, Chairman and Executive of Chaguanas West, Caroni Central, Caroni East, Couva North, and Couva South. And I want to tell you why I singled out our leader in the Senate, Senator Franklin Khan. We almost didn't make it here tonight. But you know, part of getting it done is that you do it for as long as you need to do it once you get it done. And this is not a party that is any rush to do the right thing. Sometimes doing the right thing takes a little longer. And we had before us in the Senate today a very important piece of legislation. It's called the Bail Amendment Number 2 Bill. And I don't know why the opposition and other people in this country find it difficult to understand that piece of legislation. But I'll tell you this. It is so easy for somebody to walk in here with an AR-15 and level this crowd with one pull of a trigger. And when I stood in the Senate last week, Tuesday, when I spoke on the bill last week, Tuesday, I spoke at length about this AR-15 that young men across this country are carrying. They carry it as though it's a wallet. They fit it down their pants. And I don't know what they plan to do with it, and I don't want to find out. And we found in this country that if you were charged for carrying something as dangerous as an AR-15, you could get bail and walk the streets. And we had to do something about it. And that bill, no matter what they tell you, tell them I say that is the AR-15 bill. Because if you're walking wrong with that, you belong in jail. And you know, there are people in this country, including people here in Chaguanas, who want you to be hard on crime, but soft on the criminals. Well, this bill is a dose of hardness for the criminals. And I am waiting to see when this bill goes to the lower house, and it may reach there next week, leader of the house, it may reach here next week. Because we passed this bill tonight, ladies and gentlemen, not only with the support of the 15 government senators, but with the support of 7 independent senators. And let me tell you this. The score read 22-0 because who did not support did not vote. They abstained. So the UNC must take that on their conscience in the lower house. And all of us will be watching. Because if the UNC do not support that bill, they are telling the country they don't have a problem with a man with an AR-15 down his pants. And I have a problem with that. I listened to my colleague, Minister Sinanan, talk about URP. Well, I know you don't know I have a URP story, but I have one. And my colleague, Senator Avinash Singh, is laughing already. When we came in the government in September 2015, it didn't take them long to reach by me, because the ministry at the time had something called European agriculture. And it didn't take long for $60 million in claims to reach on my desk, with toters, supporters, boosters behind it. And when I looked at the claims, I said to myself, like the rebuild Felicity, 60 million in claims for work done. And I called my colleague, Senator Singh, and he said to me, that was money spent, well, money, it is spent, money that was supposed to be spent during the by-election in Chaguanas West. And the idea was that they will go around Chaguanas West, they might do this, that, and the other. But ultimately, once the UNC had won in 2015, $60 million would have been paid out of those contracts. And let me juggle your memory a little bit. They had a journalist there building box drain. A journalist who built box drain all over the country, but had a claim for box drain there. So this is no joke. Senator Saddam Hussein needs to do his research. And if he needs help, I have much more about URP that I could share with him. And I listened to my colleague, Senator Rohan Sinanan, use an expression, get away with murder. He said they wanted to get away with murder. Well, I'm afraid to use that expression. But let me tell you something. In live sport, people dead. People dead. And live sport was 2013 to 2015. So when you're talking about our opponents, do not use the words murder and kill easily. Just remember, people have been killed in live sport. A few months ago, we came here in Signature Hall. When I came, I had some support, I know that. But I didn't have a big side. But tonight, we've presented to you 8 outstanding candidates for this Chaguanas Borough Corporation. And it is not a simple matter, you know. People say, vote them out. Well, I have been saying, smoke them out. Because, you know, it have some things, when they live in your house for too long, no amount of fly spray, pine sol, nothing will get them out. Cockset would not work on them. You have to light fire and smoke the UNC out of that Chaguanas Borough Corporation. You have to smoke them out. And it is about time. How will this part of this country, this is the engine room of Central Trinidad, in the hands of these people who cannot take Central Trinidad forward. And look at what we've presented. Look at who we've presented. Look at our 2 speakers tonight. Who in that Chaguanas Corporation could stand and give a speech like Janelle Joe Ryan or Lisa Holder did tonight? And as we made the journey down to Chaguanas, I realized right away, you may want to hear about land, because, you know, no matter how hard we work, the UNC like to say, nothing being done, nothing happening, nothing this, nothing that. I don't blame them for saying that, you know, because when you listen to a lot of us, particularly in the cabinet, you realize we only getting their work done. Things that between 2010 and 2015, they just could not get done. And we have had to get it done. But there is no better illustration of the PNM getting it done on this issue of land. Because I've listened to them on Caroni 1975 Limited. I've listened to them. And tonight, unusually, I've walked with some paper. I walk with some paper because I want to give them some numbers. You see, in the 2003 VSEP in Caroni, there was a commitment to give to those workers a 2-acre parcel of land for those who applied. And there was a commitment to give to those workers a residential parcel of land for those who did not already own a parcel of land. And 7,246 persons applied for a 2-acre parcel of land. And I know because I was there, and they know because they know I was there. Of those 7,246 persons who applied, 127 opted to give up the land. In other words, the government, the state wanted to do a project, and they opted for money instead of the land. 7,246 minus 127. Then you end up with 7,119 people remain. Well, I will tell you this. All the noise they're making about land and land and land. Listen to the number. 6,005 of the 7,119 have already received their leases. Go tell them that. Because those 6,005 leases, you can't blame them, you know. Those people are mainly in UNC constituencies. But here's the problem. You see, when I came to Chaguanas East, when I came home to Chaguanas East, this lovely constituency, I thought that the UNC was going to come and say, but Clarence don't live there. I thought they were coming to say that. And I really wanted them to say that. Because I wanted to tell the country. And Wednesday in Grandy, I get a chance for the first time. Tonight, I get a chance for the second time. I really wanted to tell the country. Would you believe? There are 18 UNC members of parliament. Rushton Parry is the only one living in his constituency. Go through it one by one. David Lee in Tong. Fuad Khan in Tong. Tim Gopi Singh in Tong. Padarat from Princess Tong in Roystonia. Ramonia by the golf course in Trincity. Bodo in Gulfview. Monilal in Gulfview. Kamla in Palmis. All you want me to continue? Suraj in Lanch Park. So how they will know if the 6,005 people they represent get in the lease? I have to know that for them. And that make my work twice as hard because I have to do the UNC work from 2010 to 2015 and do my work from 2015 to 2020. And we getting it done. And let me tell you why we have not reached the magical number of 7119. Do the maths, you know. I tell you 7119. We give out 6,005. Well, we couldn't find 1,114 people. Remember my colleague, the Minister of Social Development, Sherry-Ann Coburn, had an exercise with food card. And she couldn't find 13,000 people. Well, I couldn't find 1,114 people. And we've gone through a process, and some of them have appeared, and as they have appeared, we've given them the lease on behalf of their UNC MPs who don't live in their constituencies and do not know what's going on in their lives, but we know and we're getting it done. We also, as I said, there was a commitment on the residential lots. And 8,855 persons applied for the residential lots. And there were 30 sites all over the, I'm going to say all over the country, all over the UNC part of the country, the yellow. You know election night you see yellow and red? All over the yellow. All over the yellow. And to my surprise, when I came in, the one or two sites where you could have actually given somebody a lease, it was UNC-controlled corporations that were not signing off on the approvals that will allow you to issue the list. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine that? Chaguanas Borough Corporation, Couva Corporation, Penal Debe, Princestown, but they would not know that. You know why? They're not living in their constituencies. How they will know that? So I have to do their job for them. I end up with about 18 seats, 18 seats, because I have to do, with your support and the cabinet support, to do their job for them. And of those 16 completed sites, 4,274 leases have been given out. The target is 4,504. We've reached 4,274. You understanding what I'm saying? Almost everybody who have to get a residential lot from a completed site has gotten their lease. But they would not know that. You know why? I was not operating like the $60 million in contracts, We had very public distribution of leases. The media was there. It was up on Facebook. I give the number that come. I give the number that didn't come. Put up everybody photo. But you know what I said to myself? What better way to pass this information to these UNC MPs by doing the distribution at RNC complex? That used to be the home of the UNC. That used to be the home of the UNC. That is the home of the Sugar Union. That is where Mr. Nirvan Maharaj has his political party and the union. I make it easy on them. They had to take no taxi to reach a home by them. I have to reach. None of them have ever showed up to a lease distribution where they would have seen their own constituents, not mine. They would have seen their own constituents crossing the stage, collecting their lease from me, standing in front of one of those cameras with instant photos. And as they leave in the stage, they get their photo in an envelope with their deed, and they go on home smiling. You know what I noticed about the ex-Caroni workers? We provided refreshments for them. At every single lease distribution, there was a stack of containers with sandwiches and so on. The first lease distribution, not one container touch. Everybody take their lease and go on home. The second one, same thing. After that, I say, forget the food. Forget the water. Let us focus on giving these people these leases. But there are some incomplete sites, 14 incomplete sites. And I make no apology for those sites being incomplete. Because you know what? If you read in the papers now, you see a case, a civil case going on. A civil case with a $1.2 billion claim. Well, we had to take a decision that those claims and those sites could not be finished until we got to the root of all the corruption that is involved, until we deal with it. And when we clean it up and account to the taxpayers, not only for the money, but the criminal conduct of people on those projects, then we will move on with the distribution. And they will say, we have 4,351 to do. You're doing the maths. We do 4,504 already. We have 4,351 left. And I will tell you this, I'm very happy to say, I got a letter recently, I asked Caroni 1975 Limited, all this work the cabinet has been doing with you, all this thing we've been doing to get these sites completed in these UNC areas to get their constituents with a lease in their hands. And I know those people living in these sites will be very happy with what I'm about to say tonight. Between now and September 2020, we will distribute another 1,255 leases. At the sites we will do it from are the Exchange 2 sites. That is the site at the heart of Couva by National Helicopters. The Exchange 2B and Picton 1. And I will tell them in advance, they could come. 355 leases will be given out in January 2020. 900 leases will be given out in May 2020. And in total, by September next year, as we prepare for our next term in government, we would have reached 6,584. And Prime Minister, if I get the opportunity to come back again and finish off the remainder, I wouldn't mind. I have about 1,000 left, and if I get the opportunity to do it, I'll do it. Because I like doing this. I love doing this. So that I listen to them about the grand plans for agriculture. They do this and they do that and they do that. They can't even get the maths right. But I'll tell you this, there's a culture in this country. That sugar factory in Brecon Castle stopped grinding in 2003. UNC or partnership or whatever you call them had 5 years and 3 months to do something about that. They did absolutely nothing. They spent millions and millions on this thing called the Sugar Museum and end up with nothing. But more importantly, they had the usine St. Madeleine factory and the former refinery where we produce granulated sugar. They did absolutely nothing with that. And they love the idea. If I was MP Padarat, driving past the using St. Madeleine factory, and I hear that the PNM is going to take down that factory, sell the scrap, sell the usable parts, and establish a significant high-end, low-end, medium-end residential development there, I would tell the PNM, get it done. Because you had all this time, you're passing there every day, going up to OPM, going up to, I don't know where they used to be. And you are now the member of parliament, and you have a problem with us in government taking down about 5,000 tons of old iron, sticking up in the air, and converting that to what could be an engine room for St. Madeleine, for Derby, for Princestown, for New Grant, for all around, all of Williamsville, Ben Lomond, all them places. And they have a problem with that. And we want to give them more problems because you see that Brecon Castle factory, that will come down too. Because that is a valuable site for Couva. So how could we leave that corporation in Couva in these people's hands? No vision, just old talk. But we are in the business of getting it done, and that is what we plan to do, continue to get it done. And I said to them, I know that we have major problems, in fact, a crisis in state lands. On October 1st, 2018, the day of the budget, I decided to give out some cabinet approvals for leases. And there was a lady called Sheila Mohammed from Point Fortin. And when I handed Sheila her letter, she reached up to me and she said, Minister, it's 60 years of waiting for this, It's 60 years, And that is the reality. The reality is that the average person, Senator Singh and I and the cabinet deal with, have been waiting for a lease renewal or regularization for 30 or more years. And I listened to them saying, nothing happening, nobody ain't doing nothing. Well, you know what? We've been doing your work for you because you could not even deal with the state. You didn't deal with the Caroni lands, and you did not deal with state lands. And for every unhappy, disgruntled UNC MP that's saying the PNM not doing anything, have a person or 10 or 20 or 25 who will tell you they're very happy with the PNM getting the job done in state lands. Jordan Ciudat from Elliot Trace in Kunopia. Ricky Ramcharan, young farmer, Elliot Trace in Kunopia. Terry Patrick, Sogrim Trace. Alexander Valentine, Elliot Trace. Ajoda Trace. All those are farmers in Tim Gopi Singh's constituency. But Tim would not know that because Tim living in Maraval and I handling his business for him in Kunopia on your behalf and on behalf of the country. He would not know that. Carlson Field, I told my parliamentary colleague, Dr. Bo Tiwari, today, I said, we have dealt with 19 leases in Carlson Field. I thought I should tell him that because I know they're battling for another chance to run again. So I want to give them some help. And I said, Carlson Field alone, we've done 19. And you know those 19 people? They've been waiting for 30 or more years. Bihari, Hari, Motilal, King, Carlson Field. Jeffers from Mamoral. Gill from Daniel Scott Trace in Talparo. Rippler from Depot Road, Longdenville, right down the road, Tim Gopi Singh constituency. Up in the east, Tombason, Streatham Lodge, Jokan Trace up in Carapo, Mondo Nuevo, the food crop project, Susconosco in Santa Cruz. I could go on and on. Listen, when I finish call the land, I will call the ocean too. Because we have been getting it done in this PNM. Up in Northeast, Christine Hill in San Rafael, Turur, La Flor Estate, Maiden Voyage Estate, Wallerfield, Bacalay Land in Vega, Brooklyn Land Settlement. And I will be in Northeast sometime this week giving out another set of approvals to people who know that the PNM has been working and know that the MP would not know because Christine Niwalo Hussein don't live in Komoto, Manzanilla. I just be up there more than she. Orange Grove, call the part of the country. Some farmer, some person with a residential tenancy for state land that has expired, some temple, some masjid, some church. Go through the 18 UNC Health constituency and you will meet 50, 25, 100 people wanting to know when they will get their business done. But those people are not complaining, because they understand that if the PNM could deal with the current leases by the thousands, we've already dealt with state lands by the hundreds and we will get to the thousands shortly. They will understand that when it comes to the business of getting it done, the PNM understands how to do that and how to do that well. And as we got close to the general election in 2015, the UNC made a last-ditch effort to do something for the squatters. And they went to Parliament with a bill to deal with the legislation that established the Land Settlement Agency. Because that legislation has a number of sites listed that the LSA can deal with. And politicians have come and gone since that LSA legislation was passed. And all of them have known that there are hundreds of sites beyond what is in that legislation. And that legislation needs to be updated. But the UNC at a last minute effort to take control of Sangre Grande, when they realized that Brent Sancho was not cutting it, decided to go and finally deal with this squatting in Sangre Grande. And of course they failed. They failed. Because if UNC knew about dealing with squatters, they would have done it a long time. Because a lot of people don't realize that when they talk about PNM, the time in government has been almost equally shared from 1986, has been almost equally shared by the two parties, Because whether they call themselves NAR, ANR, UNC, COP, ILP is the same. We know what it is. And if they had a chance, they would have done it. But I will tell you this, in Northeast Trinidad, because people on the public sector payroll had not been minding their business, on that place called the Valencia Long Stretch, my father worked in forestry. And coming from Rio Claro, we traversed that long stretch all the time. In fact, it was a dangerous stretch. The bridge, as you know, you had to stop, and it was a one lane only. And there are parts of Valencia was so dark that people would get killed, overtaken, and all of that. But everybody knew that there was prime forest on either side of the Valencia long stretch. And when you think it was people behind there, cutting trees and making coals, that is not what was happening. People were building houses and establishing themselves there. And as a country, the people charged with the responsibility to deal with that did not do it. So we have inherited a problem. And I will tell you that up in the Valencia long stretch, northeast, Trinidad, all those areas, we have a situation now where on 2,600 acres of forest reserve, former forest reserve, there are 5,809 structures. And out of those 5,809, 3,549 are residential structures. And anybody in this country who has tried to break a residential structure, any administration, has found themselves in court. And my colleague, Leader of the House and Minister of Planning and Development, Camille Robinson-Regis, will tell you, we've been in this IDB program of regularizing squatters, particularly in Northeast Trinidad, for more than 20 years. And there has been one stumbling block for us. Up to now, that area is still officially classified as forest reserve. And nobody in this country, no commissioner of state land, conservator of forest or minister or cabinet, can grant a residential lease for forest reserve. So we had to go through a very detailed process as a government. And notwithstanding the fact that this decision to de-reserve or to take away the designation of forest reserve was made by the PNM government twice in the past, all the complications coming out of squatting and coming out of dealing with more than 5,800 structures has caused significant delays. But in government from 2015, we have set ourselves on a path as a government, notwithstanding how we feel about the pervasiveness of squatting, to do right by the people in Northeast Trinidad. We will not turn our backs on more than 3,509 families living in Northeast Trinidad in those circumstances. And no matter what they say to you, I tell you this, nobody but the People's National Movement and government could deal with squatting, regularization, spending the money from the IDB, doing the technical work, and putting 3,500 families on the right path. And I don't care if they say that is about politics. I don't care if they say that, because we have to do what is right. And we have to finally address, and not only there, right up the road in Longdenville. I was in Jonestown in Arima 2 weeks ago, Guayaguayari Road in Rio Claro. When you're going up to Brazo Seco, along the roadway, all those people are on state lands. Point Fortin, and even in the UNC areas. But they would not know that squatting taking place in their constituency because they're not there to see that. They're in Maraval. My friend Rudy Indar Singh is in Lapai, Karani. They're not in a position to see that. So the way to fix this, in Sangre Grande, give us a PNM control corporation so that when the documents go for approval for our squatter regularization program, it will be approved. In Chaguanas, smoke them out. Don't just vote them out and give us a Chaguanas controlled borough corporation in Couva. No matter what they say about we have 13 and you have 1 and all of that, we have the power to change that. Because if Couva gets in the hand of the PNM, from Brecon Castle, right up the road to Grand Couva, down the road, Basta Hall, I know Mr. Indar Singh can't control what is happening in Basta Hall. I know that. I know that. Start off with us giving us it in the corporation, and in 2020, we'll take it in the general election from you and help you with it. I want to thank you very much, Chaguanas, Couva, Couva North, Couva South. Since I've come back, because I was here before, we've had a good time. I've met some warm and wonderful people. I've met some people who are very focused. And most importantly, I've met people who understand that come 2020, Chaguanas East must be at the forefront. Chaguanas East must get the job done. And if you do that, the very first thing I will do is move into this constituency and live. Because I don't want anybody going on a platform and saying that Rambarat don't know what's going on in Chaguanas East because he don't live there. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the next member of parliament for Chaguanas East. Our next speaker, I first met him in 1990. Our next speaker, the honorable political leader of the People's National Movement, the honorable Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, the honorable Christopher.
Anybody ready to go home? Well, you had better not be, because I intend to keep you very late tonight. Mr. Chairman, my cabinet colleague, the Minister of Works and Transport, Senator Rohan Sinanan, my other cabinet colleague, the Minister of Agriculture and Lands, Senator Clarence Rambarat, and of course, my former colleague in the campaign, Mr. Leonard Ratan Singh, a former PNM candidate from Couva South, in the days when we were out in the wilderness battling back from the opposition, and of course, the two lovely, hard-working, experienced councillors from Chaguanas, our ladies, Janelle Jurayan and Lisa Holder. From the Chaguanas Borough Corporation, young people doing a wonderful job. And I want to acknowledge all those other candidates who have been presented here tonight as PNM standard bearers as we go in to the home stretch for this local government election. I want to thank my colleagues for carrying the campaign for the last week when I was absent. And I want to thank those who on the platform and those of you who came out to give them that support and that energy to take the PNM's message into San Fernando and into Barataria. Where were you? San Fernando and where? I missed. Barataria? Okay. Temporarily missing in Barataria was. But tonight here in Chaguanas, thank you very much for coming, and I want to acknowledge the many tens of thousands of you at home who are following our programs on the television, on the radio, and on social media. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been ignoring those on the other side because we have so much to do and so much to report to you and so much to say to you that it takes up all our time. And we believe that once we tell you what is happening with your country, that is our campaign. Our story is a good story. This country story is a good story. But you know, last night, there was a UNC meeting. Last night? Yeah, Monday night. For rum. And coming out of that meeting, I think the people of this country should be very concerned. Because when the leader of the opposition, facing a serious national problem that threatens everybody in Trinidad and Tobago, and her response to that is, who the hell cares? And I tell you that because that is the attitude of the UNC. And I want you to keep that phrase in your mind, because I'm going to come back to some details a little later on in a few minutes. And I want you to understand that a slogan like that, coming from somebody who is leading a political party that is presenting candidates to go into office, and says to the people of the country, in the face of these difficulties, who the hell cares? And she said that in response to the disquiet in this country that was triggered by this book. I don't know how many of you saw this book, but you would have seen Minister Stuart Young, our Minister of National Security, having a press conference last week because this book was published a few days ago. And because of this publication, the National Security Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and 25 other countries saw it fit to have a press conference to tell the country what this book contains and how it concerns you. Kamala Prasad's response to that is, who the hell cares? But I noticed that last night every single one of their spokespersons try to dismiss the importance. Let me summarize for you very quickly what it's all about. This book with a strange name. How many of you in this room has or have ever used a cell phone or a computer or an email address? Put your hands up. Every one of you I can see. Because Trinidad and Tobago has one of the highest per capita saturation in the world. I don't know what you've been using those items for. Cell phone, Facebook, computer, email address. I don't know what you have done. You know what you have done. You know who you've been talking to. You know what sites you visit. You know who should know what you should not have been doing. And it is because of that privacy which you need to preserve, that there are laws in this country that says that privacy should be protected. In discussing the right to privacy in the Constitution, it says you have a right to privacy. But in managing the country's affairs from time to time, you are allowed under the Constitution to make little adjustments on that right while acknowledging the fundamental right. And our Attorney General has been saying on one occasion that there is no automatic right to total privacy. From time to time, we have to breach it to protect you yourself. In 2010, come back with me to 2010. In November 2010, when Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa became the Prime Minister of this country, she came to the Parliament and piloted a bill called the Interception of Communications Bill. And she went to the philosopher Sophocles to give you a discourse on privacy and to belabor Patrick Manning and the SSA for having, as she said, spied on a few hundred people who were under surveillance by the SSA, people in the media, people in politics, people and so on, so without a shred of evidence. She gave a thesis, and I invite you, the media and the country, to go back to November 2010 and see what Kamla Prasad Bisesa had to say about privacy. But then, after that, foreigners, a foreign company or a group of foreign companies have been given access to all your data in real time. And that is why it was so important for the National Security Minister to come to you and tell you what was said in this book by a whistleblower. You know who a whistleblower is? A whistleblower is somebody who knows something that he is expected to keep private, and other people knows that too, but somebody decided, you see this? I must tell others about this. I must carry the story and tell them. And the person who did this is a fellow called Mr. Wiley with some pink hair. You might have seen him on television. A ring in his nose and pink hair on his head. He is the whistleblower who told, not Trinidad and Tobago, he told the world what those companies were doing with respect to penetration of people's privacy. The data from your cell phone, from your sites, from your addresses. But you know, we in Trinidad and Tobago, we were getting the blowback, but we didn't know where the breeze was coming from. How many of you in 2015 had received an invitation to talk with Kamla in the campaign of Kamla 2015? In the media, home in your house, on your private numbers that was only private to you. I remember distinctly one woman, a young lady, saying she had just initiated an email address and she used it once at UWI, and the next thing she knew, she was receiving communication from the UNC campaign. There were other persons who were receiving calls asking you to stand by to speak to Kamla Prasad Bisesa, and everybody was asking, where you got my number from? How you got my number? There was never any answer. But the bottom line is, let me take you through where people care. Since in Trinidad and Tobago, the former Prime Minister who led a party and who has responsibility now for explaining to the country how the country's database end up in the hands of foreign companies who are using it for all kinds of nefarious purposes and threatening you personally. But let me tell you all something. That privacy is not to be joked with, eh? Because if somebody has your data and you have done anything that you are ashamed of, you are exposed to being blackmailed. Understand that. So the day somebody call you and tell you, hey sir, so, and you better pay me so, otherwise I will do so, you're going through. You're going through. And data is the new currency of the world. So the question is, did we ever lose our private data that should have been kept in databases in this country under the protection of the laws of Trinidad and Tobago? And the answer is yes. And the next question is, how did it happen? And the next question is, who facilitated that? The people who wrote this book said, yes, it happened in Trinidad and Tobago, and it was facilitated by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. So while Mrs. Prasad Bissessa will want to ask you who the hell cares, we want to ask her, as government of Trinidad and Tobago, what did you do to protect the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and what did your party do to expose us to this? But you know, while the people of Trinidad and Tobago are being asked to dismiss it, it's Nancy's story, it's a hoax, and who the hell cares? Let me tell you what the rest of the world has done in responding to these same people. I just asked our Attorney General to tell me what was happening with Trinidad and Tobago in responding to this matter. Because you see, this book was published 2 Mondays ago, I think it was. 2 or 3 Mondays ago. And by the time it came out, and it came out in the media, what had happened to us in Trinidad and Tobago, and the government responded, I was surprised that the conversation very quickly went, coming from certain talking heads, that this is all because we are in an election. This is all because there's an election and we are trying to score political points. Well, let me put that to bed now. This has nothing to do with this election. This has everything to do with an ongoing problem which we discovered and which started here in Trinidad and Tobago since 2010. And listen to this. This is the response I got from the Attorney General asking where we are in this matter. And he says, in April 2018, I was contacted by the National Crime Agency for the United Kingdom and was invited to attend their offices in London in the UK, along with 6 other entities, to participate in interviews with Christopher Wiley and his attorney, Tamsin Allen of Binmans, that's the law firm, relative to his public disclosures and testimony before, inter alia, the United Kingdom House of Commons, the Parliament of England. The meetings were scheduled for May 1st, 2018 and Friday, May 4th, 2018. 6 entities participated: the National Crime Agency of the United Kingdom, the Office of the Attorney General of the State of New York, the FBI, the Department of Justice of the United States, the United Kingdom's Election Commission, the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago, and the United Kingdom Information Commission. Kamla Prasad Bissessa, these are the people who care. It is because they care that this huge criminal activity was taking place and had taken place. And the only reason why Trinidad and Tobago was invited there is because we were in the center of it. But the government of the day, the party that facilitates that, asking you now, who the hell cares? And all you should care about is pothole and whatever else. He goes on to say, Mr. Wiley agreed to provide Trinidad and Tobago assistance, and I subsequently met him with his attorneys in the United Kingdom in the presence of our UK attorneys. He indicated that he was prepared to give evidence before our Joint Select Committee to deal with the issue. Mr. Wiley informed that he had received threats from members of the UNC and was afraid for his life, and he effectively went silent. After he went silent on us, the book appeared naming us. And of course, he specifically informed, this is the Attorney General talking to me, Wiley specifically informed when I asked that Gary Griffith has nothing to do with Cambridge Analytica or any of the other entities. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago telling you about this. Let me take you to the British Parliament. I brought some documents here tonight so that the people of this country could be informed. Let me take you to the British Parliament, which convened a committee and which summoned Mr. Wiley, while in Trinidad and Tobago they're telling you it's a hoax, it's a joke, it's a Nancy story. This Mr. Wiley was summoned before the British Parliament. And when you go before the British Parliament committee, if you lie there, you can go to jail. He was summoned before the committee and questioned about his involvement in this matter that he was talking about, people's privacy and people's data. 2010 to 2014, he told them they carried out in Trinidad and Tobago the Talk to Kamala campaign. You all know about that, right? And he said that it involves politicking with illegal actions that will haunt us for generations. September 2017, and I'm giving you these dates so you can know that this issue has nothing to do with the election this year or the election this month. And why we are talking about it now is because the government knew about it, but we have not been parading with this politically. We have been dealing with it as a criminal matter, under criminal investigation quietly and seeking to get the evidence. So September 2017 in the UK, September 15, the United Kingdom House of Commons conducted an inquiry into disinformation and fake news. And the inquiry centered on 3 companies. And I want you to remember the names of these 3 companies. One is Strategic Communications Laboratories called SCL, another one called Aggregate IQ called AIQ, and a third called Cambridge Analytica. And what were the allegations? The allegations are that the UNC-led government illegally obtained personal information on citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and passed such information and data to those companies who then used them without authorization to create personality profiles for the purpose of targeting people with tailored information in order to influence their electoral behavior. And of course, the testimony, let me name 4 people. 4 people I'm naming here. Christopher Wiley, these were the witnesses that make reference to what they call the Trinidad and Tobago experiment. Christopher Wiley, he was a former director of research of SCL and Cambridge Analytica. One called Jeff Sylvester, he was the chief operating officer. Another one called Alexander Nix, he was the CEO of Cambridge Analytica. Another one called Brittany Kaiser, she was former director of the program development of Cambridge Analytica. And one called Chris Vickery, the director of cyber risk research. And I give you those names because I want to tell you what those people said to the British Parliament about what they did in Trinidad. Christopher Wiley, he talks about being part of a project that was to go out and find a way of accessing raw internet service provider data for the entire country to monitor what people were browsing in that country. As I understand it, that is not legal in Trinidad. It certainly will not be legal here, meaning in the UK. So, where did he get the data? He tells the British government, this is a company, Cambridge Analytica, that has worked with hack material, and this company will send out videos of people being murdered to intimidate voters. Now, Mr. Wiley's testimony goes on. A British MP, a certain Mr. Paul Farrelly, asked Mr. Wiley, can you say a few words about what work you were aware that the company did in Trinidad and Tobago? Mr. Wiley answers, the Trinidadian project was for several politicians. It was mostly a data harvest. We used it as a precursor to the Ripon project. Remember that name, the Ripon project, to see how much data could be pulled and if we could profile different attributes in people. Mr. Farrelly asking, pulling it from where? Mr. Wiley answered, online data sources. The contractual document with AIQ, whose role was to go out and find data. The contracting is pulling data, and there are also emails that I have passed on to the committee. So they have passed on documentary emails to the British committee in the British Parliament, where AIQ is working with SCL to find a way to pull and then de-anonymize ISP data for raw data, raw browsing. You know what de-anonymizing means? It means that you can be identified as a person when you are on the internet. You're not just a number. You are not anonymous. When you go and play up with Facebook and whatnot, you can be identified because your address, your ISP address data is now to make available the raw data. And then, of course, he goes on to say, I did not continue working on that project because I got switched over mostly to the United States. I have provided documentation on Trinidad to the committee, in particular with reference to AIQ trying to acquire raw, de-anonymized ISP data. Another part of the testimony, on May 2nd, 2018, Chris Vickery is asked, and he says to the MP, Mr. Stevens, we have had evidence from Christopher Wiley. This is the question going to Mr. Vickery. We have evidence from Christopher Wiley and from Brittany Kaiser about the work of SCL in foreign elections. There is an email and there were some contract documents, and part of the project was to go out and find a way of accessing raw internet. You have written about that data you retrieved from Trinidad and Tobago. Could you describe the connections that you found between AIQ, SCL, and Cambridge Analytica? Answer. I did confirm on Twitter that there is a fairly extensive Trinidad and Tobago project that's on here that you will be very interested in reviewing, and that there's private, what I call PII, personally identifiable information for a large number of people on this hard drive. So somebody has a hard drive with a large number of data on the people of Trinidad and Tobago, the raw data. And that's what Kamala Prasad is saying to you. Who the hell cares? Should questions be answered? And this question, what he confirmed is that there are people out there who possess your data. And the UNC must answer to us, because we need to know who have our data. But of course, if you're lying about it ever happening, you don't have to answer. If you're saying it never happened, then you don't have to tell us so we can find out what is happening to us and who is doing it to us. But you see, there's a document in this pile which are the minutes of a UNC meeting of June 2014, where they identify themselves in a strategic committee. The Minister of National Security called their names for you, and you saw them being tasked to go to WASA, to go to TNTEC, to go to TSTT, to go to social services, and to get all the bodies of data in this country. And whoever did that made that available to these people who use that data for nefarious means. The first of which was to give the UNC a profile to conduct a campaign in Trinidad and Tobago along racial lines. Because what they were doing was engaging in voter suppression. That is part of the strategy, to focus on targeting Afro-Trinidadians to encourage them not to vote. By putting to them, after they build the profile, after the algorithms build the profile on you, they know who to target and what to tell you so that you will not vote. That's what they're paid for. So you see, then goes Mr. Alexander Nix. Mr. Collins, a British MP, asked him, you worked before on a platform like this? He said that we worked in Trinidad, and I think that was our first engagement. First engagement of this kind of behavior. this kind of criminal conduct was in Trinidad and Tobago. That is on the British record put there by Alexander Nix. And of course, when they ask him, that was your first engagement? Answer, that is correct. I believe you were introduced to AIQ by Chris Wiley. Is that correct? That is correct. And of course, February 14, 2019, a final report went to the British Parliament. And here what the report says. AIQ worked for SCL to, and I quote, create a political customer relationship management software tool for the Trinidad and Tobago election campaign in 2014. And then went on to develop a software tool, the Ripon tool, commissioned and owned by SCL. AIQ repository file contains a substantial amount of development work with vast amount of personal data in plain text of the residents of Trinidad and Tobago. That was a report in February 2019. Before that, there was an interim report on July 24, 2018, and that says, evidence submitted under the heading Trinidad and Tobago. Evidence submitted by Christopher Wiley highlighted the fact that STL was influencing the election by disseminating disinformation about the voting preference of young people. Trinidadian elections are affected by the population's mixed ethnicity. And the reason why that's important, facilitated by mixed ethnicity, the database and the tool that was being used was to segregate us and separate us along cultural and racial lines so that they could be targeting you on racial preferences. So this goes on, and if you go to the British Parliament, it's all there. You go now, the chair is asking, that was the work in Trinidad and Tobago, is that right? Answer from Mr. Jeff Sylvester, Trinidad and Tobago, correct. The scope of work in Trinidad seems quite broad and certainly very technical. Had you engaged in that work before? Answer from Jeff Sylvester. I had done software development work before, yes. And Zach had done online advertising. But in Trinidad, online advertising was not what we were doing there. The Trinidad work was to create a political customer relationship management software tool. That was the bulk of the work. And of course, it goes on to ask other questions. Were you working from your office in Canada? Correct. Well, in Trinidad, we had not established an office. Everyone was working from home. Asking you, so in terms of your SCL work, you were hired to work in Trinidad. You were hired to work to develop Ripon. You were involved in doing some further work on Ripon. Correct. Mr. Lucas, the British parliamentarian, asked, I'm just going to give you a copy of a contract that was signed in 2013, which I think is the Trinidad and Tobago contract. If I can refer to it that way, you recall that contract? Sylvester, yes. I did not review the whole thing, but it looks proper. Was it the first contract that the business signed? It was the first contract that we signed working together. And then, of course, when the business started, it was a Trinidad and Tobago contract. Did you involve going to Trinidad and Tobago? Did that involve you going to Trinidad and Tobago? Answer. After it was finished, we had a contractor go down to train the political party on the software that we built. But I never went down there. Hear that? They came to Trinidad to train the political party. But Kamala Prasad-Bissessar and the UNC mouthpieces are telling us that that never happened. And of course, when did you first hear about Cambridge Analytica? Sylvester, it was in early 2014. I want you all to pay attention to that year, 2014. It was after we completed the work with respect to Trinidad. We were talking with SCL about the work we were doing on the Ripon project. Sometime in and around that time, they mentioned they were working with a company out of the United States called Cambridge Analytica. And of course, Mr. Sylvester went on to talk more about Trinidad and Tobago. I think I've said enough. All that I've read out there to you are the proceedings of the investigation, the inquiry under oath, under penalty of jail before the British Parliament. You go on the British Parliament website, find the appropriate website, and you'll find all of this there. But of course, it comes up in the front in Trinidad and Tobago, and you suddenly realize that you're featuring there. And those who put us in that situation, those who facilitated us, automatically go to their default position. It's a lie. It's not true. And you know, the main mouthpiece is one called Rudal Munilal. And hear his reasoning. Hear his reasoning. Show us the contract. Show us a check. Call us a name. But I just called a number of names there. There are references to contract. But you know why they're getting on so? Let me tell you why they're getting on so. Because they believe that they have created the perfect crime. And nobody will find out. So that way, they know that there's no check from the UNC to those people. And that is why, but a check from the UNC to those people is not the only way they could have been paid. Understand that? And it's because they know what they have done, why they're so strident telling you, show us a contract, show us a check. So all these people who go before the British Parliament, go there to lie on Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, they went before the American Parliament as well. Because here I have written statement to the United States Senate Committee on the Judiciary in the matter of Cambridge Analytica and other related issues. Opening remarks. Chairmen and senators, let me just quote from a couple of the opening remarks. On page 4. And this is Mr. Wiley, who wrote this book, who I just quoted from in the British Parliament with his colleagues. By taking advantage of countries with still developing civic institutions, the firm was a corrupting force in the world and became the face of what colonialism looked like in the 21st century. And of course, a name is mentioned in here, a fellow called Kogan, Dr. Kogan. He had authorization from the company to spend $1 million US. And of course, you know who Kogan is? Kogan was the brain who developed the algorithm that will use your data to create a profile on you, to be able to target you with whatever they want to target you with. When Kogan took this job from SCL, he got paid. You know who he got paid? He didn't get paid in cash. He got paid by them giving him the database of Trinidad and Tobago. So this Russian, who works out of St. Petersburg University in Russia, has the database, according to the documents, of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, when Munilal asked if there's a contract, yes, Muni, there's a contract. This is the contract. GS Data and Technology Subscription Agreement between, and in this contract, you will find copious reference to Trinidad and Tobago, and you will see it signed by Alexander Nix, who was the CEO of Cambridge Analytica, and also by Kogan. So this is the deal that Nix made with Kogan. And of course, we were not the only people involved, but the joke about it is that we didn't work too much. In there, the data they stole on Americans, remember America's a big country, eh? They stole approximately 80 million people's data. And in this contract, they were going to get paid 50 cents US per head for the data. 50 cents per head. So everybody who got his data stolen is worth 50 US cents in this contract. And guess what? You know when you go to buy fish sometimes, the fish vendor will give you a slice to give you your weight, and it might be 2 slices, and then you just cut a piece of head or a piece of tail and throw it on. Well, in this contract, where the United States population is worth 50 cents per head, the Trinidad and Tobago 1 million database was thrown in as lanyard. Thanks to the UNC and all of them who telling you who the hell cares, that is where we end up. And we now, in 2019, must dismiss the fact that our privacy and our data, whether you are a 16-year-old female or male or a businessman or even the state, our data is in the hands of foreigners to be used for God alone knows what. And it wasn't even paid for, it was given free, gratis, and for nothing. Others are worth 50 cents. This is the contract here. And all about Trinidad and Tobago. And you know how we featured in it? When they started out on it, they needed to prove the technology. And Trinidad and Tobago was regarded as the perfect place to prove the technology. And because the government and the party was so accommodating, they themselves said they were surprised by themselves to see what they were able to get. Because we are probably the only country where they got all this raw data, where they could look at you in real time. As soon as you click and you go onto the internet, they were onto you. And they could identify you personally. And then they went and they sold that. And that is how the UNC could have been contacting you on your private secret telephone number throughout the election, trying to canvass you and having selected you for a certain kind of treatment during the election campaign. That's how it was. And now that it has come out, what they should do first and foremost is to accept responsibility for what they have done. But no, not that. They are disowning the minutes of their own meeting, the meeting of June of their own strategy committee, chaired by Rodney Charles. Khadija Amin is saying the meeting never happened. Rodney Charles knows nothing about it. But 2 other people, one of them who is listed there said, I am not talking, I'm going to talk to my lawyer. Because he knows that this has legal implications. Another one say, when they say let's do it, I tell them, only be careful, this thing might be illegal. But Khadija is telling you it never happened. And Kamala is asking you who the hell cares. Understand? And Moonlal is asking you, since there is nobody, no check, no, it hasn't been paid for. Well, let me tell Moonlal how it was paid for. I want to take you down to the Chaguanas Development Authority. The Chaguanas Development Authority on the 22nd of October 2014, that same year again, on the 22nd of October 2014, the Internal Tenders Committee of the Chaguanas Development Authority approved a payment for Ross Advertising for $250,000. Ross Advertising is the advertising firm that did all the UNC PR. That is the one who, the infamous money that you're supposed to get at age 60, that you didn't get, and it says Ross who make the mistake, that company. Approved payment of $250,000, October 22nd. By October 30th, the board ratified a payment. Ratify means it happened already, so you're coming for approval now. Another payment of $449,000. And of course, by the end of September, the money flowing so easy, it got to $901,000. And that was the last time any proper approval was seen for Ross and the monies in CDA. those payments went on in that few weeks to 100 to 1 point something million dollars, $1.784 million in a few weeks. An approval that started out at $250,000 in a few weeks jumped and got to almost $2 million. But it was so sweet that without board approval, whoever was running the CDA entered into contractual arrangement with Ross for $6 million more. And by the time we came in, all of this is towards the end of 2014 into 2015. By the time we won the election and came in, Ross was good at the CDA for $13 million. Cast your mind back. The first approval was for $250,000. And you know what Ross does? Ross advertises $13 million to advertise Chaguanas. Now, Kamala asks, who the hell cares? I will ask, what the hell was Chaguanas advertising to cost you $13 million? But Ross got access to $13 million in Chaguanas at the CDA. It ended up costing people their jobs, and it ended up bankrupting the CDA. I'll tell you about that just now. But let me tell you how much is $13 million. The salary of a prime minister is a little above the average person in this country. As prime minister, I pay $15,000 a month in taxes. So at the end of the year, after I pay that $15,000 every month, at the end of the year, I would have paid $180,000 in taxes. It will take me 33 years of payment like that just to get to supply that money to Ross. You get it? When you hand taxpayers' money to people like that by a decision being made, just hand them millions, pretending that you're getting something for it. What did the CDA get for $13 million to Ross? And you, the taxpayer who paying it, if it will take me at $15,000 a month, that length of time to pay into the treasury, that kind of money to pay that bill, you understand the kind of wood taxpayer taking in this country? You understand? And that is a joke as compared to what happened at the NGC. Let me take you to a report that I have from the NGC. This report is called Examination of NGC Financial Records Relating to Suspicious Transactions 2010 to 2015. You remember, cast your mind back. You remember coming up to 2015, this mysterious thing used to appear on TV and ad asking you, what is happiness? And we couldn't figure out, what is this? Who is paying money to ask, what is happiness? You see, when they were getting the money at the CDA, it was under the heading of something called branding. Branding. So they went down to the NGC, and all of a sudden, the NGC was required to have corporate social responsibility projects. Remember we told you the NGC had billions of dollars in their account, and the last billion was spent out just before the election with the water treatment plant in Bitam? Well, just before it got to zero, they decided to have corporate social responsibility projects. And let me tell you how that went. And bear with me, let me read it for you. I don't want to ad-lib it. Let me read it for you. It's in this document. An examination of NGC records during 2010 to 2015 discloses a record of deliberate attempts to conceal expenditure, poor record keeping, runaway and indefensible wastage of company money, and siphoning of money. This may have provided an avenue for political and other improper financial activity. Over the period 2013 to 2015, that is 2 years, or let's say 3 if it's inclusive, a record of $915 million. Let me repeat that. During the period 2013 to 2015, a record of $915 million was spent on 46 corporate social responsibility projects relating to roadworks and recreational facilities totaling $422 million, and also in advertising and branding a further $493 million. So they spent $422 million on playgrounds and roads, and in advertising and branding another $493 million. And that is why Kamla Prasad Bisesa could have the bold-faced gall to come and ask you last night, who the hell cares? Well, Kamla, we care because you take $915 million from NGC for branding and advertising. And you know who was in the middle of the advertising there? The same Rust Advertising from Chaguanas Development Agency. And of course, there was a particular company, the one that painted off the name of the equipment when they were building Kamla House. They got 52% of that money. Of the $915 million, that company, SIS, got more than half. And they got in 6 projects. And if you go through the document, you will see the scams that they were using. When they tender, 5 companies will tender. But the 5 companies, the directors are the same. Same directors. And the companies have the same address. But they pretend to be competing against each other. And as they tender, somebody in NGC determines who gets the job. The management of the NGC, who are professional people, in one situation where they try to award $200 and something million, $274 million of contracts in that way, the management said, no, we're not doing it because it does not meet our tendering rules. You know what they did? They took the package of $274 million with the same fraudulent tendering arrangements, carried from NGC to another state company, PSAEL, and got that company to award the contracts as they had intended to do at NGC. Of course, the documentation is faulty, the arrangement is fraudulent, the government changed, we come into office, and you would have heard last week, one of the contractors won a case in the court to get millions of dollars in claims because the company could not defend or would not defend itself because there's no documentation to defend against a claim from the bold-faced contractor. I can tell you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago know that model is alive and well. There are tens of contracts all over in a number of state enterprises where taxpayers are exposed to legal liabilities. But in the company, like at the CDA, there is no defense, there's no documentation, and you are going to end up in the court. And if you can't defend yourself, taxpayers have to pay all these millions to all these people, thanks to Kamla Prasad Bisesa and the UNC. And then she has the gall to ask you after, who the hell cares? Now, under communication and branding, there was an overall increase. Here it is, NGC, one company selling gas abroad, branding the company and communicating. In 2013, They spent $57 million doing that. In 2015, they spent $236 million under the same heading. Now listen, under this government, $15 million. Down from $236 million to 15. So you understand why this country has to have a PNM government? You understand why we had to have a PNM government? Ladies and gentlemen, services under this category of advertising and branding, rough advertising got $31 million. So is it Chaguanas, is NGC, and then Moonlal want to tell you, unless you see a contract between the UNC and them companies that was digging out the iron, thieving with data, that is a joke. Because he thinks it's all a joke. Done the last $1 billion done in the Beaton water treatment plant, the value of work done there estimated at $54 million US. But the payment to the same SIS, because SIS was all over, they was fixing light bulb in schools. They were doing $1 billion contract in Beaton. They were doing recreation ground from NGC. But on this Beaton project, $54 million US worth of work done. But the payment to SIS was $121 million US. You understand why SIS had to leave the country the day after the government change? And while they leave the country with a pocket full of our money, Kamla Prasad Biswas are asking you, who the hell cares? And let me tell you how it went. Let me tell you how bold-faced these people were. This same community social responsibility work. Under 2013, NGC spent zero. Zero was spent under that heading. In 2014, under upgrade of recreational facilities, and I could tell you, that was all done in a handful of UNC constituencies. They moved from zero in 2013 to $108 million in 2014. And of course, $59 million for a total of $168 million on roads and recreation facilities. No, that was only upgrading of playing fields. The National Gas Company upgraded playing fields in that 2-year period, $168 million worth. For roadworks, 2013, zero. 2014, $121 million. 2015, $107 million, for a total of $229 million. And of course, when you look at the total, including the Cuba, Presal, those things are built by Presal there, under this heading of community outreach, zero in 2013, $255 million in 2014, and $167 million in 2015, the half year that they were there, for a total of $422 million. So you understand why, but let me take you to page 12. Total expenditure for communication, advertising, and branding, December 2010 to 2018. 2010, $21 million. 2011, $21 million, $20 million. 2012, $37 million. 2013, $57 million. 2014, $120 million. 2015, $236 million. And of course, you change the government, and it dropped to $30 million in 2016, $15 million in 2017, and $19 million in 2018. And that company would have spent on those trivial headings $500 million. $557 million. Communication, advertising, and branding. And the government that oversaw that facilitated that, going on platform every night, and last night asking you, who the hell cares? Ladies and gentlemen, all this documentation and the other pile that I have at home, I will send it to the Office of the Attorney General to pass it for criminal investigation at the Office of the Commissioner of Police. Because there's no way that all of this could have gone on and there is not criminal conduct on the part of the facilitators. And of course, you know, they want you. You know, there was a time called the Dark Ages, where if you sought information and truth, you were persecuted. If they told you the world was square and don't go too far out in the sea because you'll fall off the edge, and you said no, the world is wrong, you were brought on inquisition and you could have lost your life and you ended up in jail. And the world was like that in the Dark Ages. And if there were persons who sought enlightenment, you were persecuted. But enlightenment eventually came. But now, in 2019, in Trinidad and Tobago, there's a political party and a former government who want to preserve the principles of the Dark Ages, where if you want to search or you want truth, they tell you, dismiss that. That is a hoax. That is fake. Who the hell cares? And of course, if there are facts that you should know to enlighten you, they don't want you to have those facts because they want to tell you that they have been exonerated by the DPP and that they were victims under email gate and that Rowley have something to answer for. Let me tell you, and all, especially you people in the media, who fall for the foolishness and always reporting it as, you know, in a very unchallenged way. I brought here tonight, I brought a copy, I thought I brought a copy of the, oh yes, I have the copy, I have it. This is a copy of a letter written by the Director of Public Prosecution. Last night's meeting, everybody, like they programmed, like Cambridge Analytica programmed them, everybody exonerating the UNC from email gate and saying that this scandal of Cambridge Analytica is another email gate, as though we have satisfied ourselves that email gate was something wrong and they hurt, and this is another one, so just dismiss that too. What was it? Email gate, they call it? How many of you remember the Kamala Prasad Bisesa and Pararat heading to the police headquarters with their computer, which they never left with the police? The Trinidad and Tobago police never had access to their items. And then they brought down an American, put him in Federation Park, and they all carry their computers there to be cleaned. Okay? Let me tell you what the DPP, after a long period of investigation, concluded. This is what the position on email gate is, not what the UNC telling you. The DPP wrote on the 5th of July 2019, the purported emails involved, inter alia, the intimidation of members of the print media. Now let me stop here for a moment. The DPP speaks about the emails referring to the intimidation of members of the media. You all remember what happened in The Guardian about the same time? Good. But you hear the UNC saying, Rowley say that the Prime Minister wanted to kill a journalist. That was ever said? The DPP is talking about intimidation of members of the media. Them up that to say, I say that the Prime Minister was going to kill a journalist. That is to make it so ridiculous that you wouldn't take it seriously. But the DPP saw what was there and says, intimidation of members of the print media. And then it goes on to say, spying on the office of the Director of Public Prosecution. You recall in the public domain it being put that special branch confirmed that there was spying on the office of the DPP. And of course, attempting to remove the Director of Public Prosecution from office. Well, of course, there are those who can speak to that. This would clearly be evidence of misconduct in public office on the part of government officials mentioned above. So in other words, if any of that happened, the DPP saying it would be evidence of misconduct. But let me ask you in this room, did any of that happen? You see, when you go down to the bottom of the page, it says, on the 20th of June 2013, the said investigator wrote to Google asking that the relevant accounts for the period September 2012 be preserved by Google. It cannot be overemphasized that the request for preservation of the relevant data was sent approximately 9 months after the date in which the purported emails were apparently generated. It also cannot be denied that this factor had the potential to affect the outcome of the investigation. By correspondence dated 16 July 2013, Google Inc. indicated that information regarding the subject accounts could not be provided to the police investigators in the absence of legal process. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service were required to gather evidence of occurrences which were contemporaneous with the events of September 2012 in order to ascertain the authenticity of the emails and also to establish a foundation of probable cause, which is required in order to succeed in an application for a warrant in the United States. It is noteworthy that the purported emails themselves, their content, when matched against evidence of the prevailing circumstances in Trinidad and Tobago in September 2012, was sufficient to reach the standard of probable cause. The relevant applications were therefore successful and warrants were obtained for the internet service providers. I am reading from the letter of the DPP. It goes on to say, in September 2012, of the persons named in the email threads, the United States Department of Justice answered as follows, quote, to formally answer your question, the FBI produced all of the data and communication data for the captioned accounts for the specified period, which were provided by Google Inc. So the accounts were there. Any data within the specified period which was or may have been deleted by the account holders prior to the issuance of the preservation order would not be producible in any form and therefore could not be produced in any return. Let me repeat that. It says, any data within the specified period which was or may have been deleted by the account holders prior to the issuance of a preservation order would not be producible in any form and therefore not be included in any return. The U.S. Department of Justice also indicated in relation to Google Inc. as follows. According to our records, Trinidad and Tobago issued a preservation request on June 20th, 2013. It is possible or likely that the data that you seek for the period in 2012 may no longer exist due to the account holder's possible deletion of the data to the preservation prior to the preservation of the order. What this meant was that since the requests for preservation were not made until 9 months after September 2012, any emails deleted during that 9-month period by the account holder would not be available at all. That is the DPP reporting to the country. And then it goes on to say, conclusion, the authenticity of the 31 subject emails can neither be confirmed or denied. However, evidence gathered supported the fact that several of the events referred to in those emails can be confirmed as having actually occurred in the way and at the time referred to in the emails. This last assertion is supported by the fact that an independent district court judge in the United States of America was satisfied that the evidence had sufficient cogency to result in the granting of the warrants to search Google and Microsoft. Such a warrant would not have been granted if the applicant had not shown probable cause, that is, that those surrounding facts and circumstances were sufficient in themselves to support a belief by a man of reasonable caution that a crime had been committed. And it is signed by Joan Honoré Paul, Deputy Director of Public Prosecution. That was the end of Emailgate. Somewhere in all of that, the UNC find exoneration. They have been exonerated. How is a good question. I'm telling you now, since they have been exonerated and Emailgate was a hoax, then this Cambridge Analytica damage and scandal is also a hoax. And Kamala Prasad is on platform telling you, this is another Emailgate. Well, that might be the only truthful thing she has ever said for that night. The only truthful thing. Because Emailgate, I want to remind you all, in case you all forget, and those of you in the media who has swallowed the foolishness. Volney was a member of the cabinet. And when the emails were being read in the parliament instantaneously, and he spoke in the debate, he, as a member of the UNC cabinet, said, I don't know about the rest, but I see the face of God in that, because that is exactly what she told me when she fired me and I was leaving her office. Understand that? And to this day, Volney is still standing by his position. But you must dismiss it. And Rowley should be caught, drawn and quartered because I make it up. And of course, Mr. Wiley, who is subject to British and American and 25 countries. The reason why Wiley refused to come here to talk to our parliamentary committee, where this matter is under parliamentary investigation, on a parliamentary committee chaired by MP Fitzgerald Hines. Wiley said he was threatened. And of course, admitting that he committed these crimes in Trinidad, he decided he's not coming here. Because the day he set foot here, he can be subject to arrest for the crimes that he have admitted to. And while that is so, you have Munilal telling Wiley, call here, making a joke of it, call Griffith, call Gary, call Gary. Because as far as they're concerned, it's all a joke. It's all a joke. But let me remind you all, the same way they're bleating, how can they think we can do that? Let me remind you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, that it was the UNC that made arrangements with people, got this government in an election, went into the parliament, changed the law, duped the opposition, duped the country, duped the independents, and changed the law to create Section 34. We marched in our thousands up to President's house to say that this government had abused our parliament to allow criminals to escape the courthouse. The same UNC. It is the UNC that election week took out the clause of a contract in the OS contract on the highway to Point Fortin. The clause that said that if the contractor was bankrupt, the government could call the bonds and secure the money of Trinidad and Tobago. The contractor was bankrupt before the elections. The UNC did absolutely nothing to call the contract and recover the money. And when they saw that they were going to lose the election week, they took out the clause from the contract to allow the contractor to go away with the bonds and deprive you of the value of the bonds. The value of those bonds, I remind you, 921 million TT dollars. It took this government to go to courts around the world to fight and to win it back, to bring back to you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, $921 million that the UNC attempted to give away. And then she has the unmitigated gall to go on a platform to ask you who the hell cares. Well, Kamala, we care. We care. And as long as there's a PNM at Balize House and in Trinidad and Tobago, we care, and the people of Trinidad and Tobago will be cared for. I want to remind you that the lead up to the 2015 election, when all the polls were showing that they were losing, they were publicly claiming victory, running a campaign called Kamala 2015 with a dotishness. They came to the parliament and they attempted to amend the law to change how seats were going to be collected. They attempted to change the law, called parliament in August, and attempted to change the law from first past the post to something called a runoff. You all remember that? It's the same UNC. It's the only political party, the only government that attempted to do that, to legislate so that when they lose, they win. You all seem to forget. Only us forget easy. Eh? It's the same UNC. It's the same UNC who put $6 million into something called live sport and quietly and secretly put $400 million in there and funded criminality from Carapo to Carnage, from Enterprise to Point 14, and today we are still feeling that. And an election in the country, because they think they have you in the dark ages and you wouldn't find out and you wouldn't know. An election is taking place in Trinidad now. They're putting up candidates, they're campaigning and asking you, the same victims, to vote for the candidate so they can get back into office to do two things. They want two things. One, to protect themselves from the law, and two, to thief and waste their money again. But I say to you, I don't go to church too often, but I don't forget the church teaching. Before you can, before you can get the benefit of salvation, you have to repent. You have to repent. You can't want to hold on to the sin and get the benefits of salvation. The UNC must tell us what they did to this country's database. They must tell us that meeting that they had where they have named people who are now disowning their own minutes. They must tell us that all these foreigners in their companies are mad people and they just decide to figure. But of course, they just told you your database doesn't matter. In this age of 2019, where your very life is on your phone, where the technology allows you to expose yourself and be most vulnerable, the UNC is telling you it doesn't matter. Tonight, on behalf of every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, I demand that the UNC tell us what they have done to this country. Because it's only when we know what they have done that we'll be in a position to respond to it properly and to protect ourselves from the damage that they have done, which can damage us for generations to come. And all because they wanted to win an election. And they went, what these people have discovered, the foreigners, is that you use technology to create a tool to look for weaknesses in societies, cultural weaknesses in societies, and then you exploit those weaknesses. We in Trinidad and Tobago, this multiracial, multi-ethnic society, we have a lot of fault lines. What they did, they brought people in here to find those fractures and to exploit them. You look at America right now, it's exactly what is going on there. It's exactly what happened in England. Cambridge Analytica that played a role in the British election that is threatening to break up England and Scotland and Wales, and America that can't understand what is happening to that great country. It all started here in Trinidad and Tobago. They created the template here. And when they saw what the template could have done, they carried it to America and to England, and they sold the tool to foreigners. And Kamala Prasad-Bissessar thinks that we must simply say, we don't care. Well, we care, and we want to know. And this will continue to be the subject of criminal investigation with international assistance. So tonight, I say to you, we in the PNM, we want not power, we want authority to be able to do the things that are good for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. But as we have demonstrated time and time again, in local and general election, when you don't give us authority, we still maintain our commitment to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We are not so hungry for power and authority that we will so damage and disgrace and expose the people of Trinidad and Tobago to try and win an election. They didn't care. They didn't care what happens to you. They still don't care what happened to you. And they are lying to you so that you could just accept what they have done and they could continue to do it again. This must never happen again in Trinidad and Tobago. And to do that, we are going to have to pass the relevant laws. We are going to have to do the relevant investigation. It's like pulling teeth. At least Mr. Wiley came out and said what he did. The other three names I called went before the British Parliament and admitted in testimony what they did. But in Trinidad and Tobago, we're only facing lies. That's what we're facing. And one of the things we have to do, I'm talking to the Attorney General. You see those parliamentary committees? We have to look and see whether we have what it takes to make it mandatory that if you are required to appear before a parliamentary committee to conduct any investigation, that you must come. And when you come, if you give testimony that is turned out to be a lie, that then you must face the penalty, which will involve jail. You must not be able to come to the parliament in giving testimony and lie. It's the only way we can conduct proper investigations in cases like this to get to the bottom of this. We are in 2019. As Mr. Wiley says, our institutions are weak and we have been exposed and we have been abused. Now we know we will fix it because we have the PNM, we are getting the job done. We are getting the job done. So tonight, I want to thank Chaguanas for being with us. And I'm looking forward to election night, December 2nd, where for the first time in a long time, Central Trinidad, in and around Chaguanas, all our candidates will come home bringing victory for the people's national movement. And finally, I want to say one thing. All those who believe that this and the issues I raise here are about elections, they would be alive and well after December 2nd, because we do not see a sell-by date in Trinidad and Tobago. We are in this for the long haul. We are in this for the people. And it is time that the people of Trinidad and Tobago stand up for themselves when they are so abused. We need the PNM. We're glad to have the PNM. And tonight, as we go forward, winding up this campaign in about a few days' time, I want to know that you have been paying attention to your affairs in Trinidad and Tobago. So great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. Great is the PNM. And we shall prevail.
Yeah, Chaguanas say great is the PNM. Come on, say great is the PNM. Say great is the PNM. And we getting it done. Shaka, we go one time. Chaguanas, let me see your hands in here. Come on, hands in here. Come on. PNM. Wave your flags left and right. Come on. This one is for the nation, for the children. Yeah. Listen.
We're getting it done in the fires of hope and prayer.
Come in the front, come in the front.
Together as one, there is no load we cannot bear.